In this video, I'm going to revisit creating a brush preset, and this will be for users of the updated version of Lightroom, which is Lightroom 11. So you will notice when you open your Lightroom after the upgrade that your toolbar up here on the right-hand side has changed significantly. It looks like there are fewer tools, and there actually are not fewer, there are a couple more. So where you used to see your brush icon, it would have been right here. This is now nested inside the mask tool. So I'm going to use the same image that I used earlier to create this brush preset and just show you how to do it in this new version. Just as a caveat, if when you upgrade, you'll see masks on your images if you created brushes or made brush adjustments to your images before the upgrade. So you might see a little tag somewhere on your image. This one I've removed them so you won't see them. So you're going to click the mask icon, and then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the radial gradient, and I'm going to do the same thing as in the earlier video. I want to create a sun flare here. So the first thing you'll see is new mask, and you'll see that it's black because no mask has been created here. So the first thing I'm going to do, because this is a linear gradient, I'm going to drag, and you'll see exactly the same tool. I'll drag it to the same side. It has the same qualities here. So scaling, you can just grab the toggles right or left or bottom and top. And again, the same, if you want to scale just one side of this, you hold down your Alt or your Option key and you can scale one side. In order to increase or decrease the feather that is there, you'll come into the right-hand side here and just slide this toggle around, and you'll see the inside circle or oval will change, and that's decreasing the amount of feathering. And when I pull it way over here to 81, you can see that there's quite a bit of drop off. So I'm going to place this just center-ish. I'll bring this down, and then wherever you place your mouse around the outside of this, you'll see your mouse will turn into a double-pointed arrow, and that is what allows you to toggle this. So this tool has not changed, it's just in a different place. So now you can see that the mask up here shows you where the effect is placed, and you can see in that mask it's placed up in the right corner that corresponds, sorry, the left corner that corresponds to this. My suggestion when you create these masks is to rename them right away. So you won't be able to rename them until you start adding things to them. But now that this oval is here, I can double click on mask 1, and I'm going to rename this as Sun Flare. That's not the right spelling. That's the right spelling. And I'll just click OK. So another thing to note, this larger box up here is the containing folder. So everything you do to this radial filter will be contained inside there. So it's called a radial gradient, and as I add and delete and change things, if I were to add something to this, it will show up, and they show up newest to oldest. So for instance, if I wanted to add something to this, let's say I wanted to add a brush, I'm going to remove this in a minute, but this brush is going to contain the same effects as my radial filter, and it's being added. So there you can see brush 1. I'll just take this out for now, and I'll come back to this because it's a bit confusing that way. So here's my effect. My radial, my show overlay is active. I can take that off, and obviously that will just disappear, but the pin will still sit there. And if you hover over the pin, you'll see exactly where you're working. I'm going to retoggle that. A nice feature of this is as soon as you start editing in here, so the second I click exposure, that overlay disappears so I can see what I'm doing. And as I said, I'm going to create a radial sun flare here. So I'm going to add some exposure, and I'm not going to do anything texture or clarity or anything like that. I might add a little dehaze, which is to say take some out, and that'll brighten that up in the center a bit. And then I'm going to add color here. So I'll just choose, I can choose a yellow from here, or I can hold my left mouse button down, come into the image, and same as the previous version, I can select a color from here, and I can see over in my rainbow box there what color Lightroom is selecting. So I'm going to go and find kind of a sunny yellowy orange. That looks good. And as soon as I select it, you'll see it up in the right hand corner here, and that if you hover, you'll see it says current color. and then I can click that. And then I can do whatever all else I want to do. If I want to decrease the noise, which I quite like in this particular tool. If I want to come back over here and make this larger, for instance, I can hold down Alt. I can just bring this up a little bit. I can hold down Alt and just skew the bottom of that. And then I'll come back down and I'm going to decrease the texture a little bit. The texture is just going to add a form of sharpness, and all this texture is applying to is inside this radial filter. So once you get an effect that you like, is exactly the same thing from here on. You're going to go up to where it now says custom. As soon as you start messing with any of these sliders, not messing, but changing these sliders, whatever you might have chosen there, you might have chosen exposure to start with, or you might have chosen shadows or whatever. But as soon as you start moving these sliders around, whatever you chose before will become custom. So let's click out of here. So I'm going to come down here. Now I have created loads and loads and loads of these presets. So you will not see all of these. You will see everything above this line. These ship with Lightroom. What's here is stuff that I've created. So I'm going to click this very lower down arrow until I get to the very bottom. And I'm going to choose Save Current Settings as a new preset and name this. So this is going to be my new radial filter. And then I'll click Create. So I have my radial filter here. Now I can create a new mask. So let's say I go in here and select a linear gradient. And the last tool I used, which was my new radial filter, is the first thing that's sitting here in effect. So all I need to do now is I'm going to come from the bottom to the top, and the same effect, that radial filter, is going to be applied. Let's take this off so we can see. And you can also see that in this mask here, you can see where that radial filter is being applied, the white part at the bottom. This is very similar to Photoshop where you can see your masks. So it's in here. And I'm using this new radial filter that I created as a linear filter. So I'm going to do this one more time, and I'm going to create a new mask. And in this case, I'm just going to choose a brush, and I'm going to go into custom, and I'm going to choose that new radial filter. And now my brush is loaded with whatever I did in that filter. So it's essentially the same process as in the older versions. It's just your tools are now hidden, not hidden, but they're contained in this masking icon. And you'll see that there are two little toggles here to show you where your masks are. And I'm going to name this mask again. I'm going to call this linear filter. So that's the new structure of the tools toolbar. If you have any questions at all, you can get hold of me through my website at www.julievincentphotography.com and just pop into the contact form there and send me off an email.